My way, or the highway, and in the driveway is a nice range. Cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and obtain anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the key ingredient, it's belief. They'll deceive with the negativity, but I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
What's going on, everyone? Ryan Anderson, Jackson Muniz, the Gallop Out crew is back for another one. It's Whitney week out in New York. We have Jackson obviously stationed out there now. We'll be joined by our guest, Andy Serling, in just a second. But Jackson, check in with you. How are you doing? It's been a couple weeks since we've done a show.
Yeah, things are good. The last week was pretty busy with the contest and everything, but it went really, really well. And we had 150 people play, so I was happy with it. And, I thought I'd have a nice, easy week this week. But nope, we got the Whitney. So Whitney week, and it's going to be a good one. And I'm excited for it because this card on Saturday is pretty good.
It's phenomenal. The three of us are going to dive into races 10, 11, and 12. But before we do that, as someone knocked something over in my house, go ahead and preview this week's contests here for the people.
Yeah, this week's going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to have the biggest one's going to be Saturday again. We're going to have our $300 contest on Saturday, which we will be seeding with $2,500, as we have been on most Saturdays this meet. And then this week, the only thing that's going to be new this week is we are going to have the $40 contest Wednesday through Sunday. Beforehand, it's kind of just been Friday through Sunday. So we're going to have some kind of contest every day of the week and can get involved in all of them over on Naira Bets.
I love it. Yeah, the contests have gone into full swing since you've taken over, so we'd love to see that. But enough talk about the contest. It's time to get into the actual races taking place this Saturday. And with that, we'll be joined by Andy Serling once again. Andy, nice to have you back with us.
Good to see you. I see Jackson all the time. So
yeah, you see Jackson. You see Jackson more than me now. So
yes,
now you guys are the ones that spend all the time together. So
lots of
check in. Checking with the chat. Couples, you can change the lyrics if you got hope. I love it. Races 10, 11, and 12 this Saturday at Saratoga. 3 of the 4 grade 1s on the Saturday program. We're going to preview them all, or preview the 3 of them, I should say. We'll dive right in. The grade 1 4-star Dave is going to be the first up on our docket. They're going a mile over the inner for the 3-year-olds and upward. We have the return of Rhetorical in here, along with some others. Andy, Jackson and I were talking a little bit on the pre-show. The pace seems awful quick, even with one of the Mark Casse horses expected to scratch. How did you see this race shaping up?
I'm never sure the pace are going to be fast around here, but I imagine. I guess the filly's likely to be the one that runs. I think I'm going to assume Mibago's entered as sort of insurance in case something happens to her. And he has been running really well. I think she'll go the lead, but I don't know. To me, I think this is a race that if you're a trip handicapper, it's impossible to resist Capitol Hill. It's as simple as that. I realize that the Rhetoricals and Zulu Kingdoms and Deterministic and even Lanios have better resumes than he has, but his form's gotten pretty good, and he ran well in the poker, and I thought he ran extremely well last time. And that was a race that was dominated towards the front, but also dominated by horses that saved ground, and he did the opposite of saving ground. The good news is with the 6-horse field and post 5, I don't think Junior Alvarado can be 3 or 4 wide the entire way around the racetrack. If he is, it would really be an impressive performance by him, maybe almost as good as his ride in Gazora on Sunday, where he took a horse that should have been, and I didn't like her. I like the winner, but he should have been sitting second. He somehow managed to be back in last, wide around the track. But I think Capitol Hill is just a good opportunity to take a horse a bit of a price in a field where I have great respect for Deterministic. He's an incredibly cool horse, so he shows up. The others, they're okay, but they're no superstars.
Yeah, no superstars in here, Jackson. I'll let you take things away, as I think you also like the number 6 Capitol Hill.
Yeah, I echo everything that Andy said about this horse. It depends for me which Casse comes out, because I do think I would have a little interest in Mibago if he stays in. I think his form is – I just think his last race, he's gotten pretty good. And I thought last time they should have gone a little quicker. because clearly he had plenty left in the lane. And I think if they would have opened up a little more, he might have won that race outright. The other thing with this race is, besides whoever gets the front and besides Capitol Hill, it feels like Deterministic, Rhetorical, and even Zulu Kingdom, all three of those horses, they want the exact same trip. They want to be right behind the pace. They want to be sitting second or third in here. And I feel like sometimes when that happens, you can kind of just push the pace a little faster. Maybe that plays into the hands of Capitol Hill, who, as Andy said, had a nightmare trip last time, and it's unlikely that he gets as bad of a trip in the small field as he did last time out. So if he's going to be 10-1 in here, it feels like a pretty good price on a horse that is going to need some help up front, but there's no doubt his form has been pretty good lately.
He's really improving for Bill, and I don't think he has to improve that much to win this race. I'm scared of Deterministic. I keep trying to beat him, and he keeps beating me, so I'm kind of giving up.
Are you guys worried about the mile for him? And I know he won this race last year, but this is a much, much tougher group than the field he beat last year.
I think that's fair. And he got a very soft trip last night, sitting on top of a very soft pace. And I think maybe they're moving a little more into it. I don't know. I listen, I didn't like him last night. I spent about 5 minutes explaining to most of his owners why he couldn't win last time. They're friends of mine. And, I'm glad. Listen, I'm glad that I was wrong. For them, but, I've given up on trying to beat him. I just think he's an impressive horse. He just seems to show up every time. So I'm not again. I'm going to try to beat him, but I'm not again.
Yeah, he does. Deterministic, along with basically this entire field, tend to show up a lot. I do agree with you guys that Capitol Hill's kind of the up and comer, and I'm leaning a little bit toward Laganos here. I know he hasn't faced nearly the class in the company. I could see him maybe drifting up a couple ticks, maybe in that 6-1, 7-1 range. And I think in there, he'd be worth taking a shot. 5-1 is about as short as I'd be willing to go, but he's another one that's rolling and trending in the right direction. I do think a mile might be a touch sharp for him, but I'd be willing to take another shot with him. But
doesn't it worry you that he seems to get absolutely perfect trips every single time, and now he's drawing the far outside?
Yes, but he does
the same kind of trips he's been getting. Seems pretty slim against a better field.
A little slim, but he also kind of puts himself in the right position too, which I like to see from a horse. But I do understand your point. There. He does draw more toward the outside.
Pretty soft posts in some pretty soft fields. I mean, this is a monstrous step up from him than running against Minaret Station and Mercante and Chasing the Crown. Not that they're bad horses. These horses are better though. But listen, he wins. He's won 5 in a row, I guess.
He does. He's another one that shows up. Deterministic. Another one. Yeah. Should we talk about Zulu Kingdom before we move on to the next one? Another horse that really shows up and can kind of sit any sort of trip. Did either of you guys give this one a close look? And 7-2 felt like a fair enough price on it.
For people that think I like every Chad Brown horse, this horse could be the example of a horse of Chad's that's done very well that I just never liked. Always thought he was overrated. I always thought he's gotten very soft trips when he's won. He got one in the Maker's Mark. He got one last time. But I got to say, he did run better than I expected last time. I just never warmed up to this horse. I don't know. For a horse that's finished first 9 of 11 races, I have never warmed up to this horse. But that could be just me.
Jackson, your thoughts? Any?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think there's other horses in here that are more interesting at better prices. It's tough to get better trip than he did last time. I think I'd rather bet Rhetorical at 5-2 versus Zulu Kingdom at 7-2.
I agree with that.
Fair enough. Race 11, the Saratoga Derby, going a mile and 3/16 for the 3-year-olds. I guess we should start the conversation with the two coming out of the similar race, and that's the Belmont Derby on July 4th.
Well, there's 5 of them, but yeah.
Well, sorry, I'm at the top 2 finishers.
A bevy of them.
Yeah. I guess the best news for Will Walden for finishing second is they finally got to take the blinkers off, which I know they've been wanting to do for a couple races, but the horse kind of just kept winning. You get first-time Flavian Pratt in here, although I felt like Jackson Title Roll just beat him on the square last time.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Totterell definitely got the better trip last time. I don't think there's any doubt about that. The pace wasn't exactly flying up front. They were separated a nose at the wire, and now they're going to stretch out another half a furlong. The problem is the Totterell might be loose in this race again. I mean, unless there's the horse Ricardo's on. I forget what number he is. Sorry, I don't have it.
The 8 McCready.
Yeah.
The 8. Yeah.
Is he named for Mike McCready from Pearl Jam? That would be kind of fun.
I don't know.
McCready.
Might be.
Probably not.
But
Probably not.
I mean, I think that horse has to go, right? His one good turf race, he went to the front. You're 20-1 in here. Why else are you in this race if you're not going to send him to the lead? So even if that horse goes, I think Totterell just sits right off of him. There's just no pace in here again. This could be the exact same thing we saw in the Belmont Derby. We'll see if the extra distance is a difference maker for some of these other horses. But I guess a very soft opinion, I might go right back to Totterell.
If you think there's not going to be much pace, and I don't see a ton of pace either, I don't see the 8 as a speed, but maybe Ricardo is more aggressive than his prior riders. I think that probably favors West End Kid in the sense that I don't disagree about Tyrell being forward, but one thing about Flavien, he's not going to sit back and, sort of namby-pamby around. I thought that Tyler was a little unaggressive and got caught wide last time, and I thought ran a better race than Tyrell, and I thought that getting Flavien will get him in the game more in here, and I think that makes him pretty dangerous. But I don't know. I wonder how much the pace is going to affect this race, to be honest with you. I just don't know. I feel like they'll go fast enough. And keep in mind, a mile and 3/16, the race starts top of the stretch, so post isn't that important. It's not like the 4-star Dave where they're going to hit it so quickly, the turn. I don't know. I still think Remember Mama's the better one of all three of those horses, but maybe I'm wrong.
In the way that you just spoke about Zulu Kingdom and not being a horse you ever really gravitated toward, the same can be said for me for Remember Mama. I just
really why
I don't know. I felt like he's always left with so much to do, and I just never like a closer that comes from that far out of it. It just feels like is a tall task in front of him.
He was closer last time, though. I mean,
he was a little bit closer last time for sure.
Yeah.
First time with
I think the prior 2 starts, he got a little bit lost in there, but I don't know. I mean, I think Star Contrast, who got hurt, Michael McCarthy's horse is really, really good, and that was sort of his big blemish, right? I don't know. I feel like
I agree with that.
I feel like Jose's probably frustrated by that last race and probably going to be tough, but I don't know about you guys. I think the worst side of that race you're supposed to want is Pacific Avenue. Trying to knock William Buick, obviously, is a great, great rider. I like Irad in this horse, and in my opinion, this horse just got completely lost out there last time. I mean, he just was like badly compromised by the way the race was run, way too far back, and made a real run at the end. And I just feel like Irad's going to have a plan to get him more in the game. I like him a lot in here, to be honest.
I will say at the price, considering Pacific Avenue went off the shorter of the two between him and Title Roll last time. I think second time in the States, has that experience at the gate. Now maybe does get out of there a little bit quicker. Jackson, your thoughts?
Well, and the other time those two faced off in Dubai, Pacific Avenue was ahead of Title Roll, so we know he's capable of being forward. He just kind of got lost last time. So maybe being the second start in the U.S., he can be much closer, especially with having an inside post compared to some of the horses that are drawn outside.
Yeah, I thought, if anything, I mean, I know he kind of had a little bit of a hop at the start, but I just thought he got lost. I mean, I thought Buick's a great rider, but I don't think that was one of his better rides. I thought he kind of got lost out there.
Like there's a point in the turn where I thought he was going to get last. Like he's just getting completely outrun, and he's already under a ride. And eventually he did get going and made it somewhat respectable, but it just took him a long time. I do wonder if he's closer today.
I think he's going. Do you have any thoughts on Glacius?
I was just going to turn to that horse. I thought it's interesting that Luis Saez is going to be aboard. Maybe that's just wanting to get this horse a little bit of some forward position. I know he was prominent 3-back, but I mean they weren't flying as they often do. Yeah, he doesn't have a ton of early speed. I'm just hoping maybe this gets him a little bit more forwardly placed than dead last. But yeah, his last two, he's been way out the back.
I thought his race 2-back was pretty good. I watched both of them. I thought he ran pretty well 2-back in there, and those aren't bad horses. Hugo Palmer is a great trainer. I think Miguel Clement worked for him. I don't know if you know that his father worked for Luca Camani for years. But Miguel was definitely over there working for Hugo Palmer. He's a world-class trainer. He's 0 for 8 with no success at all over the last 5 years shipping here. Though to be fair, most were big prices.
Some notes real quick from Chris Couples. It's funny that Andy thinks myself and Jackson know the name of a Pearl Jam member. We might need to freshen up on our music.
You can't name the entire Pearl Jam band, really?
I could not.
Very disappointing.
I know. Disappointed you a lot with the music between Jackson not knowing Led Zeppelin. I mispronounced Worcester. It's been a mess over here in terms of music.
I've actually, other than the Grateful Dead and other Grateful Dead band members groups, I've seen Pearl Jam more than anybody else. I think I've seen it about 30 times. I'm an arrested child.
Any other thoughts on the Saratoga Derby before we move on to the Whitney?
I think it's a fun race, to be honest. I mean, I think that all these horses are okay. Why is the Big Con in here? He's got tons of turf pedigree. He's actually not that. He feels like a funny horse that's probably not good enough. And for all I know, the Reeves want to run here, but and I wouldn't blame him. He feels like a funny horse in here at a big price that's probably got a little more talent than he looks like on paper.
Yeah, we haven't seen him since late in his 2-year-old season, and he could
route races begin. Yeah, feels like distance.
He's been working in company with Deterministic a few times, and he's been going pretty good with him. So I thought that was interesting.
I just think he's such a you look at him, you think, what the hell is he doing in here, right? He looks like he's like the idiot entry of all time. The more I kind of looked at him, I'm not saying I'm betting him or picking him, but I think he's kind of a funny little wild card that might run a little bit in this race. I wonder if I'll have to ask Acacia what her thoughts of this horse are.
Yeah, he's not even the longest shot in the field, despite having the slowest numbers. He's got some respect, at least on the morning line from Aragona.
I wish there was more speed here for the 9 Batas, who I thought last time never really had a clear shot to go through anywhere. I don't think there's as much separation between him and these other top contenders in here. He's got no speed, and he's just going to be up against it.
No, I don't disagree. I'd love to see Manny ride him a little into the race. I don't think he's that bad. I agree. I don't know if he and Glavin are running here or the Hall of Fame. I guess Tom Morley called me earlier. I should have asked him about Glavin. Tom was walking the turf courses at Belmont. I don't know if he was wearing high heels like Michael Dickinson. And he called me this morning. He was unbelievably excited about how amazingly great the courses are there. It's actually great. It's nice. If he hadn't woken me up at 9:30, I'd have been happy. But 9:30 is like 4 at night.
Yeah, about 5 weeks until you guys are back out at New Belmont for the first time. So I'm sure you guys are getting excited about that. That'll wrap up race number 11, the Saratoga Derby. On to the big one. It's the Grade 1 Whitney, and we'll just go through the field because I think you have to kind of talk about every horse in here. But I feel like we should start the conversation with the number 8 Baeza, who I think if he breaks, I think he's the best 4-year-old or best older horse in this crop. But he's had issues getting out of the gate in so many of his races.
There should be an Eclipse Award for the best horse if it could get out of the gate. He would be like the heaviest favorite of all time at this point. That horse of the year if he knew how to get out of the gate.
No kidding.
Runaway heavy favorite at this point. It's not too late though for him to reverse it. I don't know. Do you like him, Jackson?
I do. I liked him better when Phileas Fogg was in this race. And if the 4 ends up running, which it sounds like Forge Steel is not going to run, which is going to definitely change up this pace scenario. But the fact that he ran so well last time when Magnitude had everything his own way and Baeza still didn't break in that race, I just think if he is able to come out the gates cleanly, he's going to be very, very tough to beat. And they're going to go crazy for Sovereignty again in here. And I don't see any reason why I would be wanting to be betting Sovereignty over Baeza based on the way they've run the past 12 months.
I would like to see Baeza break exactly 1 length slow and drop right over the rail. That would be my preferred trip for him. And as you mentioned, and I think that is similar about Tistastic, that he's sort of just in there in case something happens to Magnitude. I've heard he might not be running. I think Steve Bick told me that this morning. Yeah. I know Baeza, I feel like we're kind of suckers, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know how you resist Baeza. He's just run so unbelievably well in his last 2 races. And like you said, I mean, even despite the scenario last time, he just narrowly lost. And I have a question for you. Do we think at this point Magnitude might be verging on being a little bit overrated? I'm not. He's terrific, and I'm not against him by any stretch of the imagination. But, now is it the time that they're going to start anointing with the 2 wins, or are people going to be like us and say, oh, it doesn't really matter. Baeza's just, running better races, and he's going to break one of these days. I don't know.
I'm saying this as someone that's cashed on Magnitude in 4 straight races. He's had 4 straight really, really good trips where there's been no other pace to get in his way. I don't know if there's other pace to get in his way in this race. Maybe it's nitrogen, maybe it's force steel if he runs, but I don't know. I think I'd like to, if he's going to be the big favorite in here, which he'll be a relatively decent sized favorite, I think. I'd like to see him overcome a little bit more adversity than what he's had to do up to this point.
I could see
yeah, I'm kind of I don't know. I feel like you do. I do think he's the horse to beat in here because the thing about him is he's very straightforward, right? We know he's going. We also know he doesn't need to lead to win. So if something happened and somebody went on a bit of a mission, I think he's a better horse in the front end, you know? And as you know, I've always been a fan of his. I'm not against him in any way. I just feel like if he's 9-5 and Baeza's 3-1 or 7-2, I'd rather bet Baeza. But I'm not sure that is a significant, you know, I'm not sure because Baeza doesn't get out of the gate. He could be a little pace compromised in here. I'll tell you one thing. If Baeza does break, I'm pretty confident that he'll be sitting second here because I could absolutely see, unless the other possibility, though, is nitrogen, right? Do we think that they're going to be super aggressive with nitrogen? They may well do that. You know, I'm not saying they're looking to get into a head-and-head duel, but let's be honest. Doesn't she run her better races when she's really forward? Think about last time, right? Her best race happened when they were kind of airing her out a little bit, right? I think that's the fastest pace she ever set in a dirt race, right?
I believe so. Looking back through her times, yeah, for her being on the lead, I think that's or up near the pace. I think that's the quickest she's ever gone.
But if Baeza breaks, Flavian's going. You know what I mean? He's certainly going to be in position.
Oh, 100%. Baeza does have natural speed. He just hasn't gotten out of the gate, and that's been his biggest issue.
I also think it's if you're Jose on nitrogen, or is it Johnny? I think it's Johnny. If it's Johnny, you're Johnny on nitrogen. It's also twofold. If you break on top, you want to go because that's your best chance to win this race. But it's also putting your biggest rival out of position early. So if you're able to outbreak that horse, you got to beat him to the first turn and get over to the rail.
What do we think of her?
I think she has a chance. I think it's or a big chance, I should say. I like her kind of second best. I don't know. I like her second in this race. I think to magnitude, but it would depend on who gets. I think if they air her out and nitrogen gets the lead, I think that's, as we just said, her best way of going, her best way of winning.
It's such a funny horse because if you eliminate her last race, she is the least likely winner of this race, assuming the 4 and 7 scratched. With all due respect,
she's 30-1.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mean to be. She's terrific. I'm a big fan. But you say if she runs her last race, she's kind of the co-favorite, right? Last race was ridiculous, right? I mean, it was tremendous. So I would never bet her here, but I love that she's in here, and I would love to see her win or be really close. I think it'd be really cool. You know what I mean? Think about how long we talked about, you know, I don't agree with Mike Rapoli a lot of things, but I think Mike was saying something after the Fierceness Travers, you know, with Torpedo Anna. That's a race people are going to be talking about in 30 years. I actually agreed with him. You know, it made it exciting. And that's the thing about Phillies versus the boys. And her being in this race, it's a really good race to rematch the big three. You throw her in, considering the race she ran last time. I mean, it blows this race up from a sense of intrigue. And I applaud Mark, who's afraid of nothing. And I'd love to see her run well. I would never bet her.
Yeah, I would love to see her
one number horse in this field, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If she's 10-1, that's one thing, but she's not going to be 10-1. There's no way.
No.
Yeah.
What
about
horses?
Magnitude? Real quick, to get back to Magnitude before I go to Sovereignty. And I know we all picked him in the Travers last year when we covered the show. Does it bother you guys that his worst race by far was on this racetrack, and the immediate post-race reaction from the connections where he did not handle the track?
Yeah. No. You know, I'm very friendly with Peter Brandt, and the one time I really argued with him was his insistence on Sierra Leone not liking the track in Saratoga. And I was pointing out, and I know this is a different story, that he run, I thought, his best races here. He just didn't get good paces and was unlucky. And sometimes horses really are unlucky, despite what people say on Twitter. I think that's just absolute nonsense. I think he was second off a massive layoff and an injury. and he was going 1.25 miles, and he was running against a horse at that time that was in ragingly good form, and he just kind of got blown off the racetrack. To think that he ran that race because he didn't like Saratoga, to me, is just hogwash. I think trainers and people like to make those excuses. I think it is rarely the case. I don't believe the skip away didn't like Churchill. His last career start, he ran fourth in that Breeders' Cup Classic, was a damn good race, I think he only ran there like twice or something, right? And once for the Derby, where everybody runs, 80% of the field runs like crap every year,
Yeah, that's true.
So yep. I don't believe that, I mean, you want to say he's the favorite, you should consider it, fine. But do we really think he's, or it's easy? How many ran fifth? He really doesn't like Saratoga.
That's a fair point. I do think it was just a lot to ask second off of a very long
that's
layoff.
what I think.
But
they said, I didn't know they said that, Jackson. I never heard that.
Yeah, I remember reading that.
I will say, as the favorite,
I'll have to watch his works. I'd be curious. Yeah.
To Andy's point, as the favorite, you can at least consider it if you're going to try and beat him in this spot. And speaking of favorites, should we go to the horse that's been odds on in each of his last 4 starts? And I don't know. To me, he hasn't gone on as a 4-year-old to really take a big step up against the open company the older company, I should say, that he's been facing.
What do you think of him, Jackson?
I keep going back and forth on him because I don't think he ran badly in the Oaklawn handicap at all. I mean, he went to the front. He was second best to a horse that's on his best day. And Waterbury was really, really good and got a perfect trip in there. I wish he had run better last time than Stephen Foster. I think everyone wishes that probably. But it's kind of getting to be put up or shut up time for this horse who's had very little go right for him since we saw him last at Saratoga and the Travers last year, because he missed the Breeders' Cup. And then the whole goal was, okay, that's fine. We're going to win the Viral Cup with him. And then he obviously didn't make that race either. And he's just kind of been just okay in his last couple of races. So he's just going to be – he's such a big fan favorite. He's always going to be overbet. He's going to be a shorter price than Baeza. And based on what they've done in their 2 races this year, I would rather bet Baeza at a better price.
Yeah, I can't argue with any of that. I do think he's going to run well. It's his 3rd race this year. Like you said, I actually thought his Oakland handicap was fine. Thought he ran fine in there. He wasn't good last time. Now, I know he won the Derby on a sloppy track at Churchill, but as we know, different scenarios, different races. In the Derby, he didn't have a relatively moderate pace with a very good horse setting it. You know what I mean? A very different scenario than last year's Derby. So, and here's my question to you. Where did he really run better? Did he run better in last year's Derby? Did he run better last time? I think he ran better last time. I know he's a year older and he should be better, but I don't think he ran worse last time than he ran in the Derby. I just think it was a tougher race and a tougher scenario, than he faced. He faced a pace that had to fall apart against inferior horses kind of, and everything kind of went his own way in the Derby. He better show up today. I do think, I'd like to think that this is the year that maybe some of the sort of internet warriors that are always criticizing owners for retiring horses at the end of the 3-year-old year, maybe they understand a little better why owners take the money and why they move. Because, journalism, I'm not saying journalism devalued himself. He certainly didn't increase his value. And if Sovereignty, let me ask you right now, let's say Sovereignty, let's just say, and this is, something happened, he got sick, he had a scratch from here, and they said, we're retiring him. He's not worth more after this year than he was worth last year. Now, it's different. Godolphin owns him. There wasn't a stud deal. But there's a real risk in bringing these horses back. They don't all get better. They don't all increase their value. They can decrease their value. So there's a reason that owners take the money. The money's not always on the table if they don't take it that year and they don't retire them, and they want to roll the dice. Yeah, you can roll the dice and maybe, it increases your horse's value, but there's a very good chance it doesn't. And so far, journalism certainly showed that he wasn't improved as a 4-year-old. And I love journalism. And I love Eclipse and the way they raced him last year. I would love to have seen him do better. I think we all agree about that. We're all fans. And Sovereignty's another one, right? He's not, I disagreed with everybody last year, but there are a lot of people talking about him as one of the best 3-year-olds in a long, long time. Suddenly the bloom's a little off that rose. And this is a race where, man, he better run first or a close second, or people are going to say he's just not that good anymore. Right. Yeah. So we'll see. I think there's inherent risks, and I'm with Jackson. I couldn't bet him in here. I would rather bet Baeza, like you said, even if they're the same price, I'd rather bet him. But I'm not going to be surprised when he runs better. And I kind of hope he does, because I do like the fact they kept him in training, and I'm not running around rooting for all the chic sources. He and I probably don't agree on too many things in life, though I bet he knows that Mike McCready played for Pearl Jam. Better chance he knows than you nerds. But I think it's kind of an interesting horse. I think it's kind of an interesting year for that discussion, of people retiring horses, right?
It is for sure. And I'm with you on the sense that I hope he runs well in terms of it's good for the game and it's good for the encouragement to run these horses as they get older. I felt like he could take even more money and be lower than 3-1 in here. I could see a scenario where he's almost vying for favoritism just based off the support that he gets.
I don't see that.
Time. No,
I agree, but I think that bloom is off the rose, which might be a reason we're supposed to like him, right?
Maybe. Is there a price where he's worth taking a shot at?
Well, the one thing I want to say about him is he's not like coming back here and running like crap. I mean, you got a 108 and a 106 Beyer in his 2 races, compared to this year's 3-year-olds, right? He's King Kong.
Yeah, he's still.
I would bet whichever Mott is higher, I would bet in this race. I feel like it has to be Sovereignty. He's got to take more money in here.
He's going to. I agree with you on that. I think he just has that name. People are not,
And if you're a fan of this horse, you're licking your chops to bet him at 3-1. This is the best price you've ever gotten on him and ever. And he's doing it at Saratoga in a race where this is his 3rd start of the year. This is the time to get him at 3-1. I don't necessarily agree, but if you are of that opinion, you're firing on Saturday.
I don't think he's a terrible bet at 3-1, Jackson. I'm not, just because you and I aren't really betting him, I don't think he's a terrible bet at that price, because somewhere in there's a horse that could be very tough in this race. So,
Certainly.
And I think it seems pretty likely we'll be looking at a fast track. There's a couple of showers around, but nothing of any consequence. So hopefully we are dealing with a fast track. I just would love to see this be a super competitive race between, even with the filly, all 4 of the big dogs in here. And because it just makes it going forward more interesting. And we'll see which one of these horses come back to face Forever Young on opening day at Belmont. We're not letting them in the building if they don't run. So maybe they'll be incentivized to come.
I like it. Before we get out of here, should we mention White Barrio just because he does have the occasional race where he'll show up in a big way, and I do think on his best day he certainly contends deep with the rest of this field's top numbers. Is just a matter of if you get that effort out of him.
He's all yours, but you're right. Well, I just feel like Safi had some horses that ran incredibly well in Arkansas and even a little bit in Churchill, but more in Arkansas and California. And I just haven't seen those performances otherwise. I could never bet him in a million years, but somebody likes him at a price, go for it.
I probably couldn't either, but he does have a win in the Whitney already. I think, what was that, 2-3 years ago?
Nick Tamaro and David Aragona both tried to convince me to bet him, and I laughed at them. That was one of my many clever moments in life. I have an abundance of them, actually.
It's okay. The 3 of us shared a clever moment last year trying to beat Sovereignty in the Traverse, so we've all we
were all right, and we've been vindicated.
We haven't vindicated.
We're all badly wrong, but I feel a little bit of vindication.
Yeah.
Maybe we're
so bad for taking. Felt horrible for taking a shot against a 1-5 shot. I just couldn't live with myself after that.
How dare us?
Well, the other thing was, they make like all the people on the TV show and stuff give picks to Kaylee, and I was the only one that picked him. I'm okay with that position, so that's all right, but right. Somebody's got to be there to offer an alternative view. I'm happy because I really did think that Magnitude was a terrific horse after the Risen Star. I didn't think that was some sort of lucky bias-aided effort. And I think he has proven us going forward that he was a really good horse. They just were biting off more than they could chew, I think, in the Travers, We bit because we're fish, Maybe we like that. But.
Maybe a little bit, but yeah, he's certainly coming to his own. Andy, thank you for joining us for the preview of the 3 Grade 1s this weekend. I know it's a busy week, so I appreciate you taking the time to join us.
It's my pleasure to spend quality time with you guys. I even get to spend some more quality time with Jackson, though. Jackson's kind of blowing me off to me. He doesn't come and see if I want to have lunch. He never calls.
He does
I have
that.
to invite him. We got a great. We got to spend some quality time with Najee Thompson the other day. So he's having a full Saratoga experience. So he's been at Hamlet and Ghost. He's really, but he's not. He's like, I got to keep asking him out, and I'm starting to feel like the guy who's asking the girl out, and she doesn't really want to be with me, and he's just going. come to dinner with me or something out of sympathy. So I don't know.
You should go to Outback Steakhouse once, and then he won't leave you.
Yeah, that
alone.
ain't
That's what
happening.
I've learned.
That ain't
I don't think there's
All
an
right, guys.
Outback Steakhouse on this
I don't
side
think
of
there is
Mississippi,
either.
brother.
I don't think there is
pleasure.
either. But that's awesome. You guys are going to be back on together tomorrow, talking horses 8:40 Eastern. 8:40.
Yeah, well, I gotta
Eastern
say, I think Jackson's
Pacific
been
time.
signed up so far with like 5 talking horses and has been rained out of 2 of them. So I think we're gonna have to decide whether or not he's beginning to be kind of the black cat, like he's kind of a bit of a jinx for us. So hopefully, something won't happen. An asteroid won't hit us tomorrow to cancel again. So looking forward to that.
I'm just looking forward to talking about the steeplechase race. I can't wait. It's gonna be great.
Good news. We don't have to talk about it, but I don't want to hinder.
good.
You're allowed, if you would like to handicap it, be my guest.
I'm
Throw a
sure he
dart.
would like
Why
to.
not?
Jackson's gonna have some handicapping opinions about the steeplechase race, but we just shared ours for the 3 grade ones on Whitney weekend. For Andy Serling and my co-host Jackson Muniz, I'm Ryan Anderson. Thanks for watching the Gallop Out, and we'll see you for the next one.